6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Through Black and White Eyes. Yes, it's transfer deadline day. Yes, it's been a disaster. Yes, there's still lots to talk about. And if you don't think there's anything to talk about, then why is everyone on Twitter having an explosion? It's really funny. But I've got Will, I've got Ian in the background waiting to come on so we can discuss the day, the whole window itself as well. To be fair, we need explanations. We need to try and work things out, and we're going to have a sensible discussion about it. Rather than some of the people I've been speaking to today. There's the link if you'd like to become a member, though. Let's get all this stuff out the way with. Bottom right-hand corner to super chat if you want to do that. It's entirely up to yourself. Basically helps to keep the channel going. That's what Leslie says there. Says good luck with this one, Baz. Telling you, still got lots to talk about. We've also got Spurs to talk about at the weekend as well. Even all opinions are welcome, but please keep them respectful and respect others' opinions as well. Well said, Lee. Good evening, Jade. Having a beer. Gary's in the house as well. What we got here? Seeing some interesting comments. Oh, God, yes. I have seen far too many. And after night shift, I should just stay off Twitter. I really should. I've been arguing with so many people today. Even though I'm probably just clutching the straws. Shall I buy in? Do we go back for? Oh, no. We're going to ask Will that, to be fair, because I have seen it. Have Palace signed? Yes, on loan by the looks of things. I don't know if it's been fully done yet, but we're going to be keeping an eye on everything tonight. Even everyone. Closed. Thumbs up. Let's just keep our fingers crossed at least 1 or 2 reinforcements. Yeah, in January. God damn you, mate. Yes. Weinstein says, shall I be done for Palace? There we go. So, hey, you never know. It might resurrect the Guehi deal. You just don't know. This window's been embarrassing. Paris has slapped us around and pulled our pants down and didn't get a player. Exactly. Couple of wins and everyone will forget it. Exactly. There is that silver lining, isn't there? Football's back on Sunday and we've got the boys we like to spank in town. Even Daniel, hope you're well, mate. Right, let's bring the usuals in. Hello, Ian.
How, mate?
You all right?
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm tired.
Don't we know?
Far too many arguments on Twitter. Honestly, man, some of the stuff people come out with, it's just like, why do you think that way? I just don't get it. Right, let's bring Will in. Evening, Will.
Hello, good evening.
I'm sad this is our last one till January.
It's been good.
Even Will sounds a little bit downbeat tonight when
he
he's
does,
come on.
He?
Come on, let's rally the troops together and let's make this a great show. You know what I mean? Come on.
First of all, though, for all you panickers out there, for everyone who thinks this is the end of the world, grab a pen and paper because these are the numbers you need. And in all seriousness, if you are feeling that low, please write down these numbers because it's no joke. These services are amazing, but hey, let's try and lighten the mood a little bit. And of course, the dildo's back. It's took a while. It's took a while to get a dildo on Sky Sports again, but there's some fans managed to do it somewhere where there's no fans. That Chelsea FC never going to be any fans outside the ground because they all come from from all around the country, don't they, to support Chelsea? A bit like Man United.
Yeah,
there's another dig. 6-1 in 21 minutes the weekend again, and we can forget about the window. That would be nice, wouldn't it? I saw a comment earlier asking if this means the PIF will sell Newcastle. See, these are the sort of comments that have been really driving me nuts.
You've just got you can't engage in conversation with people like that, mate. You just cannot do it.
No.
Because if you do, it doesn't matter what positive comment you give back or what you're trying to make them realise that what they're talking is rubbish, but in a really positive way. What you get back is just what they believe in their head, no matter what. And then you end up in an argument where, for me now, I just don't comment on nothing now. I've had loads of messages and everything today of how much shit we talk, but do you know what it is? That doesn't bother us anymore. At one point it did bother us, but now it doesn't bother because I know the information that I get is reliable. And sometimes I have to feel I've got to justify myself, even in the group, for people to make us believe, because I think sometimes they think that we're talking a load of bollocks, and sometimes I shouldn't have to do that. Do you know what I mean? And that's the frustrating thing. And just because we haven't signed a player, what we've been spoken about, doesn't mean we've showed solid interest in that. And that's the frustrating thing. The names that we've always spoke about has always been, we haven't just branded every single name out of the book. It's been there because that's the players that's been interesting,
discussed.
Solid interest in from the club, and that's been discussed. Nothing else. So.
Which shows you in the Alanga today, doesn't it? Alanga, Will and everyone spoke about weeks and weeks ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, it went quiet, and then they tried again on the last day. Well, today they tried again and failed very quickly. I wonder if they asked for Bruno to go, asking for a player and money. You say, "Oh, well, I have Bruno." Not going to happen. I want to come back to this, right? I'm not really asked about failing to get gear. It happens when you go for high value targets. But the lack of fallback and contingency planning, what's that about? Now, this is a very, very sensible comment, but I've answered quite a few times on Twitter, and then people have missed the point, and then you try and tell them they've missed the point, and then you get saying, stop being so condescending. Right. My view on this is he's absolutely spot on. We've gone for a high value target, not easy to get. It's took far too long than what it should have. But the fallback is when you're ploughing all of your budget, which is pretty much what we had left, 70 million and maybe 20 million spare, we couldn't be on the side trying to buy a right winger as well, because we couldn't buy both because the budget wasn't there for both. So what I've been saying to people is we put all our eggs in one basket. And when that failed, yes, we've now got 70 million to spend, but it's the last day of the window. So we can't just go out and then say, well, we're 70 million for him, because that looks like panic buying. And that's what it is, really, in a way. You start panicking and trying to get a body through the door that you don't want. So I think he's spot on. If we don't get a number one target, if there isn't a B, C, or D that is up to the same standard as our number one target, we miss out this window. And I think that's what we're starting to realise what this club will do. You know, we've got limited money to spend, which is ridiculous, but we put our eggs in one basket, and it's the failings of whoever's in charge of transfers. I think it's meant to be Eels at the moment, isn't it? And then Mitchell's going to be taken over when he's got his feet under the table. They've failed in the Guehi deal massively because they should never have let it run on for 3 weeks. They should have said, right, Palace, you know, here's our final offer, 48 hours. If you don't accept it, we're going to move on to another target. And that target then could have been the number one right wing target. We've got 70 million. Let's spend it on the right wing instead then. And that's what I'm angry about. Am I angry? I don't know. I'm disappointed. Bit overwhelmed about what's happened. But that's the way I see it. They put all the eggs in one basket. So to go to another target on the last day of a window is very, very poor planning. Would you agree, Ian?
See, with me, with all the information that I got, that when I got information over that the deal was actually done, right? And Will got excited to see this went on for weeks. It was Palace that kept moving the goalposts, not us. Yeah. So Palace is the one that's been in control of this transfer, and basically they've took the piss out of us. What I've with the messages and everything what we've getting, because at 1 minute they're saying that's fine, and then it's just the structure of the deal what we're not happy with. Then all of a sudden they'll move it up another £5 million. So we'll go to that valuation, but then again, it's the structure of the deal. They've just been absolute clowns of the way they've tried to do this deal with us, and obviously it's come to an end where time's ran out. But like you said, with him being his number one target, I think it's suicidal on behalf of Palace's business.
Oh, I do massively.
Because you know yourself, he could now potentially go into another summer, goes right the way through the season. He's got 1 year on his contract. He will not demand that transfer fee. And yes, he had a great Euros, right? And for me, is he worth that? Is he worth that amount of money? No. Is he a good player? Yes, I believe he's a good player, but for that value, no. What was quoted? So going into a summer with potentially 1 year left on his contract, I think you'd be lucky if you get 30 million for Guehi in the summer. And I think Crystal Palace have just dealt with this in a completely wrong way. And I think Parish has been and it could be another one because Friedman, what's went on with Friedman before because he was coming to Newcastle? What on earth has went on with him before he took that job at Crystal Palace? That's another thing where what's gone on in the background that potentially that we don't know about. So he could have been mistracked somewhere where he's thinking, right, I'm going to give you his back. It's one of these where something in my eyes is something we've been playing along like a fiddle, and it's unfortunate. But again, Baz, I'm with you in set to go. How long do you leave it before you move on to another target? But they must, to leave it this late, mind, Newcastle United must have had solid info that this deal was going to go through, mind, and to have
reassurances,
right? To not have a plan B, and I believe there's a plan B there. I really do, because we're not, as a club, we cannot be that clumsy just to go, that's it or not, we're pulling away, because we are critical for a centre half. So for me, there's got to be a thing there. But what's happened is, in my opinion, Palace has played a blinder here to absolutely weaken us by not getting another centre half in because they know we're desperate. I really do. And something else has gone on in the background for them to achieve that.
Yeah. Will, what's your take on the whole Guehi situation?
Yeah, the thing is with Guehi, I mean, even definitely as late as Tuesday, the club really still thought it was going to happen. They really did. Even just look at what journalists were reporting. Just look at the noises that were coming out. They really did believe that this Guehi deal was going to get done. And I'm not quite sure what's changed. It seemed Palace, the original price seemed to be 60, then it was 65, then it was 70, then it was. I just think it's been a case of Palace moving the goalposts. There's been at least 2 or 3 times when a lot of people, and by the way, not just so-called ITKs, journalists as well, have claimed that a deal's done or very, very close. We know Edwards claimed that about 3 weeks ago. We've had the likes of Graham Bailey, other people. We've had reporters coming out as well, not just ITKs. And then you've even got Sammy McBell saying there's going to be a resolution in 48 hours, offer looking to be accepted. So this is not just, it's not just been made up. This is the reality of what the situation was. In my opinion, I still think that Palace's centre-back injury on Tuesday night, I think that did massively change the situation. Also, Guehi getting cup-tied probably wasn't ideal. But obviously, we've seen Palace have just got in Chalobah at centre-back as well. So realistically, after that injury, it sounds as if they were never going to let him go because they just simply didn't have enough cover. But at the same time, could we have moved a bit quicker on the deal? Potentially. I mean, we've spent a long, long time on this deal and it is disappointing not to get it over the line. Some people also ask questions, could we have split the money 30 or 35 on a centre-back and 30 or 35 on a winger? We know Simikan was available, a rumoured interest. But ultimately, I think after the pursuit of Guehi, it's come too late in the window and we probably haven't had enough time. We know we tried to make a last-ditch move for Elanga today, but realistically, it was far too late. It was going to have to take something stupid for Forest to accept being this late in the window. So, yeah, I really do think they genuinely believed it was going to happen, and it just hasn't.
On this comment here as well, it's I sort of understand it, but when you listen to Eddie Howe and the way that he talks, that this scenario never happens. We don't add 2 players to the squad. We are looking to buy players that walk into our starting 11, which then strengthens your squad because whoever's place to take then drops to the bench. That's how you strengthen the squad, by replacing, good players with better players, and then they become your squad players. You don't buy players to sit on the bench who can come on and do a job and maybe push who's in your team. You want to improve the team, and that's what Eddie Howe's always said. Now, when you think about that and what Belly said, is that the right way of doing things, Ian? I mean, personally, I think it is.
I think Eddie Howe's very clever what he says, because he's not going to say that I'm bringing a first teamer in to replace that. And he's clever, he's still a squad player at the end of the day. And no matter what the player you bring in, it's got to be competitive to the squad. Whether it's first team, sitting on the bench, whatever, they've got to have an impact in some way. So, excuse me, as much as he says they've got to be better to bring in, I disagree with that. They've got to be equal or slightly better to get us to that next level, and that's got to be on an average basis throughout the whole of the squad, and that's what Newcastle United are suffering in. So, and he's dead clever what he says, what he does, to disguise what people are saying in such a brutal way in other ways. I think the meaning's the same, but worded differently.
Interesting. Will, what about you?
Yeah, I just think ultimately you have to, if we do get someone in, with how tight the PSR headroom is, there's no point wasting it on a squad player. You can we could pay 20 million for someone who you consider a squad player. We might as well try and get people who lift the levels.
Yeah, right. This is there's a difference between a squad player, and this is what you've got to think about moving forward for Newcastle United. Gone are the days where a £20 million squad player is acceptable. As a squad player, you've got to be going in above that £35-40 million mark to improve your squad and improve. Because you've got to remember, there's a lot of players on our team that's around that 35 million, the 40 million mark. So you've got to be aiming at that. The £20 million mark players is no good anymore. So that's the route we've got to go down, 1,000,000%.
But that's what I'm saying. We have to prioritize higher quality players.
Yeah.
To bring the level of the squad up. That's why. And I mean, look, we could have went out and signed 3 to 4 players. I think even Howe said that himself. But realistically, what quality of players are you getting? Are you just bringing people in for the sake of it? And then if you don't bring people in, there's always the risk it doesn't work out. People end up on long contracts. We've already got people sitting at the club who we probably want rid of and can't get rid of. Very difficult to find options for some of these players. Pete Graves has just tweeted, and I think he summed it up quite well. He said he's been quiet on the Newcastle transfer front. He gets the fan concern, but also the club's stance. It's all about PSR. Lost talented players in June. We now have a clean slate. We tried for Elise and Guehi, didn't get either, but the money is still there. Trust in Eddie, trust in Niels and Mitchell, and unite and crack on.
I like that. And I think we do. I think we have to. It's telling me to dial emergency services from my phone. Honestly, my Alexa's got a mind of its own at times. It really has. I don't know where it comes from. So we do have to unite as a fan base. Remember what Eddie Howe said, when the fans are pushing the team becomes better. And that obviously shows and should show on Sunday. We've done it against Spurs. Last season when we had, the RNIG shirts for the deaf, the atmosphere was incredible and the players reacted to it and put on a show. And that's what we need again, don't we, on Sunday? We need something to distract us from what's happened. And I think we will get a response. But the window itself, we've got to discuss it, haven't we? I mean, there's been 5 signings if you include Hall in there, but he was sort of already pre-agreed. You've got John Rudy, Kelly, Uzla, and Odysseus, the goalkeeper, who was obviously a PSR stunt between us and Forest. And obviously Forest got the better deal because they got one of our bright young talents in Anderson. and we got this keeper who we want to loan out already, which is mental. Kelly's a good deal because he was on a free. Ruddy was just there to come in and help out in training. That's what it sounds like, to be a professional behind the scenes, to help out with goalkeeping coaching and all this sort of stuff. But Uzla's a weird one, but it was the right call, wasn't it, Ian? Because he's going to be third choice. And there's not many strikers around. And I had this argument again with people on Twitter. They're saying we should have signed one of the number one strikers in a championship team. Like, why would a number one striker who's playing week in, week out, scoring goals, want to come to Newcastle and sit on the bench behind Isak and Wilson? You wouldn't. And they say, well, money.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So
because he wanted to be number one striker at Ipswich, and he scored, and he scored against Man City.
Exactly.
Do you not think Callum Wilson's been kept out of the limelight?
Well, we haven't heard anything about him, have we?
I've seen
that he's
traded by himself, and I think, me personally, I think he's been kept out of the limelight of this transfer window. I really do. And I think it's took because obviously we've got Callum and obviously Isak and now Sula. That's your three strikers, and we've always wanted somebody to play a second fiddle. We all know a fit Callum Wilson and a fit Isak, you're always going to get goals. Always going to get goals, and you always wanted that young prodigy. Now, you've got to give Asula a chance. And what we've seen of this Asula for 45 minutes in that, I know it was a pre-season friendly, he looked quite sharp, looked dangerous on the front foot, and he took his goal very well. And he will get a chance, without a shadow of a doubt, because the injury records of our two forwards are not great. So he will get a chance to get a look. So you've got to look at a potential, such a low fee of for a forward. But surely if you've got common sense and you look in the direction of what as a club, of the availability of funds, etc., no disrespect to Asula or Sheffield United, if we had a lot of money, we wouldn't have looked in that direction, by the way. I think we would look for another top forward, like all the other top sides have got to do. So it's PSR, and we're absolutely bollocks by it, and it's unfortunate what we've got to. It's them rules what we've got to stick by to. It's so frustrating, but that's the direction we're in. Everybody's disheartened of the transfer window because we're all fans, and we all want Newcastle to achieve and get to these levels what we want to be. But unfortunately, when your hands are tied, things it's going to be rough before we get this. It's because we got absolutely blessed by going into the Champions League with the same 12, 13 players. That's what's just me and my personal opinions through the cat well and amongst the pigeons, mate. And we've just got to be really realistic, like, in what's going on. It's awful, it's frustrating, but with Sunday, Baz, I think it's a little bit of a what's the word? I'm looking for Eddie Howe for us all be reunited again. He's done it the last couple of times where he thinks that we need to all dig in, because I think he knows deep down that things haven't gone well in this transfer window. He needs the fans to come. But for me personally, I think it's on a knife edge on Sunday. I think if we don't start well, I think that stadium could be an absolute horrible place to play in, simply because of what's went on this week. I really do. And do you know what it is, mate? We've been there and done it, where we want the fans to get behind the club, but something else has went on in the background. And do you know what it is? Us fans don't forget easily. And just because a game of football is taking place, yes, there'll be excitement because it's Tottenham again. But do you know what it is? I think it's good. I'm not looking forward to it, to be honest.
Oh, I am.
I'm not.
I always look forward to football on the weekend, though. I mean,
don't get me wrong.
To be fair, though,
don't get me wrong. I'm looking forward to football. I'm really looking forward to see us play. I love watching us play. It's what can occur, and do you know what it is? We've been down this road so many times where it's like I say, it's on a knife edge for me.
See why all this sort of down? We've been let down. I am going to release a video tomorrow, and I'm going to try and remind everyone about spend
Yeah,
and all
but the
this
thing
sort of
is,
stuff.
people are pointing their frustration at the wrong. They're pointing the frustration at
Yeah.
the board. It's not the board; it's the PSR.
Yeah, exactly.
If PSR didn't exist, make no mistake, we would have spent over 100 million easy this window.
Yeah.
I've no
If
doubt.
PSR didn't exist, we'd be a top 4 team constantly already because we would have been able to spend 500 million, 600 million.
Well, it's simple. If PSR didn't exist, we would have just, when we got into the Champions League the season before last, we would have just kicked on from there. We would have had a huge window. I mean, we already did have a good window, but it would have been even better.
Yeah. See, but again, Mitchell's only been in the job for 5 minutes. It's hard. He needs to, and I don't know if I'm making excuses up here for Newcastle, but I just think Mitchell's job will be more aiming towards now the January window because Eels already had the scouting reports and everything for this window. And Mitchell's only got the job recently. This whole Ashworth debacle going on for as long as it did hasn't helped. You know, the club's sort of been stagnated, waiting for the outcome of getting rid of Ashworth to then bring somebody in. And now we've got them. They're expecting miracles from them like that. And it doesn't happen, does it, Will?
The thing is, we could list about 10 reasons why this has been a hard and difficult reason. There's not just one, there's been multiple reasons. But ultimately, the thing people are forgetting when they're bringing up the quotes about the fact we're going to spend to the maximum of the PSR headroom and stuff like that. But the facts are is that money hasn't went anywhere. It's still there. And these owners, they're not Mike Ashley. They're not going to take the money out of the club. This money will be invested into the club, whether it's January or whether it's the window after. It will get put back in. It's just, unfortunately, the thing that no one wants to hear because football is so fickle and we're always all about the here and now. But ultimately, the money will be spent at some point. Don't get me wrong. I wanted 1 or 2 signings in this window, but ultimately, we're just going to have to be patient. And in the long term, it might mean that we get better players for it.
Yeah, and also as well, do you know, you're on about Mitchell and Ashworth, Baz. I think a lot of people's comparing now because obviously Ashworth's doing quite a bit of deals at Manchester United and we haven't went anywhere. So I think
but he's been working and he's gardening leave, any of the cheeky getting. We know he has.
You kind of tell me they're all doing.
It's not a comparison though. Man United have got some of the biggest revenue streams in the world.
I agree that, but all I'm saying is it's the signings what Manchester United's made since Ashworth went there. We've kind of we haven't signed anybody, and that's right. We have, but no disrespect to the statue of play what Manchester United's brought in to what Newcastle's brought in. That's my point.
Yeah, but to be fair, at the same time, even Isaac and Bruno, people like that, they weren't Ashworth signings. They were recommended by Steve Nixon. So
yeah, they were Nixon's.
Ultimately, I think the only main signing that Ashworth was really, really involved in was Tonali. Really?
What I'm saying, Ashworth now at Manchester United.
I know what you're saying. He's made some good signings on paper. I do agree with that.
Yeah.
But then again, even if he was at us, he wouldn't have made those signings because we just can't. We simply can't.
Because of PSR.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, there's even rumours about Raheem Sterling is off to Arsenal on loan.
I've seen that. I've been talking to him today, apparently. Again, not a player we could go anywhere near.
Yeah, exactly, because of his wage demands. Well, he did say he'd lower his wages, but I bet he wouldn't lower them far enough.
I bet he wouldn't half them.
No.
Because you would have to half them unless to get into a bracket of our wage structure. And then that would never happen.
I'm trying to find.
I just don't think with the statements he was putting out, I can't see Eddie Howe wanting to take anyone like that. No. I'm actually surprised that Arteta is. I'm actually quite surprised that Arsenal are looking to go with it, but obviously they seem quite desperate.
He's got winning mentality, and he's won things. So
I've seen some of that. Martinelli's not very happy there. That's a thing that I've seen through the week. So I don't know if that's a reason why. By the way.
If you miss out on Europe this season, we might as well. Yeah, there is a risk of losing big players if we don't get Europe. And this is why we're struggling now to sign players who are going to be better than the starting 11 because we don't have European football to offer them. You know, big players want to go to teams who are in the Champions League, don't they? So missing out on any kind of Europe has actually, backfired a bit. I still wasn't too concerned, but I was expecting a bigger budget, to be honest with you, this summer. But we were all expecting a lot more players to leave. which brings us nicely on to our next topic. So Ryan Fraser has apparently had his contract cancelled or paid off, and he's now off to Southampton. Do you know anything on that, Will, or whether he has got the payoff and we've actually done it?
No, I'm just going off what other reports have been today. It looks like it should get done, but I don't think we've had anything official yet, have we?
I can't remember if it was official or not, but I've seen a few people in the chat say that it's happened.
The Alex Crook one, and we know
right
what else he's had out today.
There's also a fake Alex Crook account going around saying that we're
I've
in
seen
for Chiesa and all this sort of stuff as well. So there you go.
Although Alex
don't you
did
think
delete a tweet though?
Has the Isaac Hayden deal broke down again today, or was that just another hoax?
I have read that as well. But who is it? Ashby's gone to Queen's Park Rangers, but Hayden one is.
I heard about that there was teams looking at Hayden a couple of weeks ago. People were looking at him, but it wasn't quite this. I think he wanted a championship move, but it was like League One teams looking at him. I don't know. Was there one today that he was
probably Queen's Park Rangers?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah,
they wanted both our players. They wanted Harrison Ashby and they wanted Hayden back because he went to Queen's Park Rangers, didn't he, on loan last time?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. So I think that's why he wanted a championship move. That's why he was holding out.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
I'm not sure.
I don't think he was a bad player. He used to be one of the first players on my team sheet when Ashley was in charge, and I used to think he was a bit of a bulldozer.
Been crippled by injuries, really.
Yeah, his knees are gone probably. Don't you think Darren Eales was, when he done the interview in the German Adidas training facility, saying we had money to spend to make the team stronger? I think he opened his mouth too much, past. No, I don't think he did, because we did have money to strengthen the team, but it all depends on your expectations of that quote. So when you say strengthen the team, you could be thinking, oh, we've got money for 4 or 5 players, but we don't. We've got money for maybe 1 or 2 players, and that still strengthens the team, because that's what we were trying to do with signing Guehi, because he would strengthen the team. So he's not lying. It all depends on how you look at things and take from it. He's not put a figure on there. He's not put how many players that we need to strengthen the team. He's just said we have money, we will spend it, and we will strengthen the team. And we tried. You know, we've gone for an England international who had a fantastic Euros, failed to get him because of Palace's side. And then we tried to move on to another target who was high up the list in the Langer, and that was just done too late. So, you know, we have, I know it sounds like a thing, I'm trying to stick up for them. We've tried, but the length of the time they spent on this deal, they should have just, for me, they should have walked away, but they didn't. Stern hasn't that. Does he have an attitude problem though? I mean, he was promised things at Chelsea and then they went behind his back and left them out of the squad completely. You know, I think he's been done a bit dirty, to be honest with you. He's also helped players to sign for Chelsea in this summer window as well, hasn't he? So it's a bit of a weird one, that one. Anyone denying something going on behind the scenes is deluded, even Howe looks unsettled. I thought he looked quite calm on Wednesday night when we were playing Forest. Would you guys agree or disagree or agree with that comment? I mean, I just think there's so much going on. They're still trying to get the balance right behind the scenes, and it's not quite right yet, and it's come at the wrong time with the summer window.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the game on Wednesday, so I didn't really see him up close from where I was sat.
Just in general, like, I mean, like the interview today, I mean, I watched, look like a man who's massively under pressure.
I mean, the press conference today was probably the most, what would I say, probably the most difficult one he's had since he came to the club, which I mean, I guess he was expecting that when he went in there. And in true Eddie Howe fashion, he didn't really get rattled by any of the questions. He didn't seem flustered to me. He was basically explaining the situation. He sounded like a broken record, but he was basically bringing up PSR, saying, look, ultimately they're working within the rules that have been set, which it sounded like from the tones of his voice and stuff like that. He seems like he doesn't fully agree with the rules, which I know a lot of us don't. I don't agree with them because I think they're totally unfair, and it's quite obviously tailored towards that big 6 clubs. But I think he was just being honest with people that there's not a lot we could do in terms of the PSR, and ultimately, another interesting thing he mentioned was he said they actually did try for several players, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's names that they've tried for that probably haven't even got out into the press.
Yeah,
that wouldn't even surprise me either. So it sounds as if, I know he's always going to say that, but it does sound as if they've tried to do stuff, but it just hasn't quite worked out for whatever reason.
Yeah. It's going to be a very interesting chat on Monday night when we've got Luke Edwards on. I'm really looking forward to that because I'm sure he'll be able to give us a bit more information. I think even he has said to a few people behind the scenes that Newcastle have tried for other players, but they weren't allowed to release them or something like that. So it is very interesting that you said that. I think this completely steamrolled our transfer window, to be honest with you, for the Tosan deal, because if you get him in and Kelly in like we did, we wouldn't have even looked at Guehi, and we would have just been looking for a right wing target. And I think him looked like it was nailed on, didn't it? Well, let's face it, everyone thought Tosan was joining Newcastle, but suddenly
he had a pre-contract agreement. He was at St James's Park, and he did agree stuff, but ultimately, and this is why a few people jumped the gun, but when you're a free agent, he can also agree a contract with other till he's officially signed everything off fully. Yeah. He had a pre-contract agreement, but he never had a full agreement with us. He also reached an agreement with Chelsea and decided that they had a better offer, which he's entitled to do.
Would you agree that kind of stumped our forward thinking in that window? Because we thought we had the centre-back option. We had, Kelly as a left centre-back, left-back option. Now we look at the right winger, and that was always the intention.
I think if we signed him, we would have 100% got in a right winger. It definitely scuppered us, I think. And
before the right winger, we were actually, that's when we were really pushing for James Trafford. So we were trying to get them 3 deals done straight away.
Yeah. To be honest, I think if we got Tosin, I think we would have got a right winger and Trafford.
Right, who is this Louise Taylor thing? Because apparently her questions are absolutely vile.
It's Louise Keys Louise.
She's been around for a while, mate. She hasn't. Yeah. She's been around for a while, and she's always at the back end of the queue. And she's been normally quite good. I mean, the Tonali thing I thought was absolutely disgusting. What came out of her mouth?
It was, yeah.
It was really. It was personal rather than a question, in my point. And it was like, what's the difference between an addict and something? I was thinking, to be fair to Eddie Howe, he sat there dead calm, because for me personally, I would have been said, yeah, that is bang out of order what just come out of your mouth, mate. He's just come through 10 months through a year rehab, putting himself right, and it was all about putting things in the right perspective. And she came in like an absolute clown, and she couldn't help herself today by rabbiting on again about it, and it was just absolutely disgusting.
It's just insensitive. It's just
does it feel like an agenda?
It is. And you know, every other journalist in there was speaking about obviously the transfer window, and then it was brought on other things. She was absolutely disgusting again, straight, and they must have went, right, that's the end of that question. Is he supposed to go back to Italy? Can you tell me that?
She also called Howe disingenuous.
Yeah, disingenuous. Is he supposed to go back to Italy? And they actually shut her off, and she went, and by the way, I've got another question. I thought, do you know what it is? I thought, you cheeky cow.
They tried to move on to someone else, didn't they? And she went, actually, I've got another question.
And I was like, you cheeky cow.
I wish
money Tonali lost. Was that the next
She's
one?
Not the one running the press conference.
Totally disrespectful. And it wouldn't be. If I was I would get rid of her. Just simply on the last.
Surely the club control who is in the press conference.
Yeah, of course they do.
They can just kick her out. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. By the way, Baz, there's a bit of news coming in here from someone who's usually reliable for Arsenal stuff. Purple Panel exclusive: Newcastle United exploring a deal to sign Reece Nelson on a season-long loan. No obligation, no buy option. I assume this will be a domino that would fall as a result of if they end up getting Sterling. That's what I'm assuming.
Sterling, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not interesting. I think they're normally quite spot on for Arsenal stuff. So that's maybe we've got one to watch for the next couple of hours. I'm guessing that could be done very quickly.
Yeah, especially with no obligation, that would be worth getting the body through the door, won't it? I mean, does he improve our starting 11? Would you put him in?
I mean, he gives you an option, definitely. I don't think there's anything to lose. If we can get him in on loan for a season, I'd be open to doing it. Gives us an option on that right-hand side. He's looked promising in spells for Arsenal. I wouldn't be against it, personally.
See, that's my worry, honestly. It's that right centre-back option, mate, and it scares me.
Yeah, we've been at loggerheads over this, haven't we, through the whole summer?
Yeah, we have, and it still scares me to death at this present time because it's Kraft's there for me. He's not. Come on, man, he's a right back, and Shaw. It's a bit, he is Mr. Consistent. He does all right, but again, if he goes down injured or anything like you're going back to Kraft, which is just not the answer in my eyes. Because going forward as a football club, we needed that right side of centre half, a huge player to come in, just to be there for the future. And it was either Guehi or Chow for me, which is so disappointing. Like, really is, and. It's the frustration will come when we play bad, right? And then the fingers will start pointing at these players where we could have. Again, I'm going back to the transfer window. It was just frustrating. We could have done better, in my opinion, to get even a plan A or a plan B there for a big player to come into that right side centre half for the future of the club.
See, the thing is with the right centre back option, Shaw's back after Spurs. And Shaw's not the kind of, I'm going to put a jinx on him now. He's not the sort of player who gets injured. He doesn't miss many games. He does with a lot of head injuries normally.
Yeah.
But he's not the kind of player that's normally missing. And that's why I always said...
Car's played with injections and he does everything he can to get himself out on the pitch.
Of course he can, But
he's retired from international football now as well, which means that he won't be going on national duty and coming back, with potentially take injections for pains. He's going to have more time to recuperate, like Trippier now as well, which is why he is a must keep, and that is obviously going to happen now. He won't be leaving. But that's why I always thought it was worth the risk until January or next summer. With Shaw, is he's going to be the number one centre back, because whoever we brought in, either we changed formation or he was going to be sitting behind Shaw, which is why I always thought we needed a right winger first, because let's face it, whoever we buy at right wing is going straight into the team above Murphy and Miggy because they're not at the standard we want them to be. But Shaw is at a standard that we need right now. So that's why I always thought the right wing situation was a bit more important than the right centre back now. But and Kraft can do a job. The only thing that I noticed, and everyone's noticed it as well, is that when you've got Byrne and Kraft at centre backs, you've got nobody who can play the ball out comfortably, and that is why our performances in the last few games haven't been up to scratch, because we cannot kick the ball out. We cannot play out from the back as strongly as we do when you've got Botman and Shaw, or even just one of them there, because they're comfortable playing the ball into midfield.
I think that's why
these two aren't.
The press was so effective.
So you've just got the nail on the head there, coming through your two centre halves. When you put Tino Livramento at right back and you put Jacob Murphy in front of him, you've got nothing coming down that right hand side for creativity. Nothing. And the left hand side, I mean, the way Gordon's been playing, he's been away with the fairies in my eyes. Something hasn't been going right for him since he's come back from the Euros. Again, the balls coming in from the box from our flanks has been, in my eyes, non-existent. So a player coming in there to change formation, right, to give us a different dimension the way we play, instead of being a one-trick pony that's easily found out, going up and down them flanks as trains, I just think it's just... Now we are limited to what we're going to do again. And I think it's either going to work and we'll be brilliant on the press, or we're going to sit into a 4-5-1 where we're going to be frustrated. Now, it proves against Forest, where I thought we started absolutely brilliantly, and then we just fell into that rut again, where I thought they were...
Do you want to know why we fell in that rut? It's because Willock went off and we lost that running power.
Right. So this is what I'm saying. So if Shaw goes and you've got Kraft, what's going to happen then? You go back to, you're not going to be able to play
I
the
agree
ball.
with this one. Why aren't we just playing two left? Yeah, but play Kelly because Kelly can play the ball out.
We are.
And I know it's 2 left footers, but at centre back, play
Right,
Byrne
so-
and Kelly.
Well, but I think Byrne's been one of our best players this season at left centre back.
Yeah, play Byrne at left centre back and Kelly at right centre back and see how he does playing the ball out. I don't know because I've never seen him Why
play.
not?
He's both footed. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, exactly. And you can at centre back you can play with 2 right-footed players.
I just wanted a different
Everyone's
different
dynamic. I know you do, but
what
that's
did
not
you
gonna
guys
happen.
think on Wednesday when Barnes did? Am I right in saying Barnes moved over to the right-hand side and he was linking up with Tino?
I thought Barnes played absolutely fantastic all game.
I thought that worked. I thought that pairing on the right-hand side, I wouldn't be against seeing actually Gordon on the left and Barnes on the right. I know Barnes is really good off both feet as well, so he's got the option of coming inside or he's been good. I thought Barnes,
Well, both of them can
Barnes
switch mid-game.
Well.
They can switch mid-game as well.
Yeah, exactly.
They can start playing with the defenders' heads. I'm all for it.
Me personally, the way Gordon's playing, he'd be sitting with spelks on his arse because he's been terrible.
But again, he got the goal against Bournemouth and he created 4 big chances in that game.
Ian, this is our problem though. If you bring Gordon out, the quality, the drop-off is just...
Yeah.
This is the thing. He almost knows he's in the team at this point.
So, but the thing is, so if Eddie thinks he's got his squad that strong enough, you take him out.
So would you go Barnes left, Murphy right, maybe?
I would give Miggy a chance, mate.
Yeah.
Because I thought Miggy...
Yeah.
I thought Miggy done all right.
I wouldn't be against it just because I think it's going to be a very end-to-end game. So we might need the tracking back. We might need that extra support, especially.
The thing is, I want
Gordon
in because of his pace.
The availability of players that we've got, and the understanding that if Kieran Trippier staying at this football club, the relationship between Kieran Trippier and Miggy Almiron, they've got an understanding of where to play and how to do. And I thought,
yes,
if you revert back to type of the limitations of the squad, what we've got, if you're playing trips, you've got to have Miggy in front of them because they simply know where to do. And our best side when they were 2 on was predominantly our right hand side. With all we created for a high percentage of them games came from that right hand side. So for me, that's what's got to do on that side. The left hand side at this present time, again, the way I think Gordon's playing, I think he needs to come out. And I would give Harvey Barnes a chance there. And I'll put Lewis Hall in at left back and just see what goes about there. But just because Anthony Gordon doesn't give you the goddamn right he's going to play, and you feel you just because he's got nobody breathing down his neck either, you underperform. You need to, just for the sake of, you're not just going to have the right to play here. You need to come out the side, and it gives freshness back into the other players that just are going to training every day, and just because he's playing, you go, oh, he's been took out. Harvey Barnes must be very frustrated what he's watching because I don't think he's performing nowhere near to the levels he did at the back end of last season.
I don't think that's because of the Euros, though. He's not up to game speed yet.
I think there's something else as well. I think he's had his head turned with Liverpool.
Possibly. Willock had a scan, which apparently it's going to be a couple of weeks maybe, which is very, very good news because we really missed his running power when he went off, and I thought that changed the game. It really did. Tonali just rounded the goalkeeper. Why did he try and chip him? Round him. Goalkeeper committed himself. I was gutted.
I think he's probably just had the adrenaline rush, didn't he? You're one-on-one.
Yeah, because it was so early in the game. I had fucking 20 quid on him to score as well. Would have been £100 if he banged that in the net.
How good was he?
Very good.
You know
absolutely
what I
amazing, to be fair.
He looked really sharp, and nearly everything he did was one touch. He was pinging it all over the place. Apart from 1 or 2 misplaced passes, I thought it was pretty good, to be honest. I like the look of him. The running as well. He looks like he's gained half a yard. He looks quicker. He looked fit until he started wearing off a little bit towards the end when we brought him off, which is just a little bit of a lack of match fitness. But yeah, I like the look of him.
I think he's bulked up a little bit. Well, he looks a little bit bulkier.
Yeah,
definitely.
I agree with that.
I've had conversations with people and they're saying that he plays the safe option. Not for me. If you watch him there, he just keeps the ball moving at all costs. He just that ball's never dead at his feet. You'd be very, very, very not very often that he'll get caught on the ball. But he's like Bruno sometimes likes to carry that yard, and he sometimes gets it took off him in tight areas. I don't think you'll get that with Tonali. Just the way he likes to play on the front foot, even if he's on the back foot, he never wastes a pass. He'll just always keep it moving. But what for me, he's off the ball, like running to make yourself available at all times. I think he's exceptional mind, and it stood out like a sore thumb.
He made a lovely pass down the right hand channel to Miggy, but Miggy didn't read the ball. I don't know if you remember that one that went in. That's a great pass, but he just never read it. Right, quickly before we go on to other stuff, don't forget to subscribe if you're enjoying the show. Hit the thumbs up button because it really helps. Link at the top of the chat, become a member. It's only 99p. What do you get for that? Well, you help the channel run and keep it running at a cost that doesn't come out of our pocket. And you get put into a monthly prize draw to win a $40 gift card, but everyone can have 20% off all these amazing stuff on Diet Grow. Link is in the description. We've also got another amazing raffle going on from Football Prizes, and Livamento and Kelly double-signed framed shirt, and there's 17 other instant prizes to win as well. There's a Tonali shirt there, there's a Gordon shirt as well. Honestly, some of the prizes are amazing on this raffle. So get your tickets while you can. And don't forget, please write down one of these numbers if you're really, really frustrated about the window. Don't do anything silly tonight and just, stay calm. Things are going to get better. I can promise you that. And the last one is this. It is going to happen. And it is going to be on the 16th of January. It will be at Benfield Football Club. And we do almost have a special guest. We're just waiting for him to 100% confirm. I think the price is going to be £10 a ticket. Superfan Dan is going to sort all that out. But I can't wait for this because I think it'll be an absolute laugh being live with an ex-Newcastle United player talking about football and talking about these two crazy guys down at the bottom who fly over here for Newcastle games. Honestly, they're mental. They really are. And hopefully Will be there as well.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully, yay. Tonali looks special. He does look special. Baz, would you drop Tonali for Longstaff on Sunday? I wouldn't. That's a tough one, isn't it? I know Tonali it was brilliant on Wednesday night, but Longstaff when he came on was also very good. But do we bring Tonali on as an impact until he gets his match fitness back, or do we throw him into the game and take him off after 60, 70 minutes when he's blown his backside out and then bring Longstaff on and hopefully we're 3-4-0 up by that time? What would you do?
Here's one for you. Do you know what I think you do personally? If you start Barnes and Gordon, then I think you keep Tonali on the bench. Because otherwise, if you start all of them, the only thing is, then there's a bit of a lack of quality off the bench, I think. And just imagine if we do go Barnes and Gordon and we go Longstaff in the midfield, imagine if we are drawing and it's sort of petering out a little bit, getting towards 70 minutes. Imagine the crowd's reaction if Tonali gets brought on. It's an easy win to get the crowd back into the game. I think it's an interesting option. I wouldn't be against seeing him start, but for me, I also, controversially, I do think Longstaff's actually started the season quite well. I don't think he's been too bad. So I think I'd probably keep him in there for this one.
Ipswich and talk to sign striker Armando Broja from Chelsea on loan as well, though. If Ipswich already got a player on loan
now.
Yeah, I've just seen that. But haven't they already got one on loan as well? Because you're only allowed two, aren't you? You're only allowed two domestic games. So that would be interesting.
Have a look at that.
Yeah. Ian, what were your thoughts about Tonali starting on Sunday after Wednesday's performance?
Yeah, I don't think he'll start. I think he'll start Longstaff. It's easy to put him into a cup game, in my opinion, because it's a Carabao Cup, and Eddie Howe probably would have thought it'll not be the same intensity of the Premier League. I mean, it's going to be a different ball game on Sunday to what it was on Wednesday. So I think he'll, out of respect for Sean Longstaff as well, because he does a lot of work and he does trust Eddie Howe, and Eddie Howe trusts him. I just think, especially with the unavailability now of Joe Willock, I think the three picks itself in the middle there now. And like Will says, I think if things aren't going well, or if it's a tight game, Tonali off the bench will be all right. a crowd lifter, because obviously, again, it's something off the bench where something completely different. Where if you need to be, if you're going after a game, he can have that side of it. But if you need to control a game, he's got that ability inside him as well, just to put his foot on the ball. Like I've said, keep things moving, keep it nice. So it's a fun. He's brilliant to be back. Honestly, absolutely brilliant. And I'm looking forward. Even though I shouldn't, in 10 games' time, just to see him up and run the game till we get the heights of him while he was against Aston Villa last season.
Yeah.
And I'm sure. I think he'd be better. I really do. And it goes to show the faith what his own country's got in him after being out so long and having 40, like
straight back in the squad, isn't he?
60 minutes of football, and to put him straight into his national side.
The thing is, he's not been injured, has he? He's just been suspended. So it's just game fitness for him. He's a little bit of sharpness missing, but other than that.
Honestly, Baz, nothing prepares you for that first game. And Eddie Howe will see his fitness levels were through the roof. And you work hard through pre-season, you work hard for 2 months non-stop, and you think you're fit. When that first whistle goes, mate, and you start running about, you are blown out your arse. And you think, I can't believe all that work. And you're literally going in half-time, mate, and you want your second wind. And every footballer that I've played with or played against will tell you exactly the same. You work so hard. Once that ball's kicked, the adrenaline and everything takes over, right? And there's nothing more fitter than match fitness when you're playing football. You can run all day on them roads, or you can go on in that gym and you can train with your mates or whatever. But once you start playing football again, it'll take them a while to get up to full Premiership, because it's the fastest league in the world. It's the best league in the world. So that's what I've said. I can't wait in 10 games' time, because I believe he'll be up to full speed then. All being well, he keeps himself fit, and we're going to see a fantastic footballer in 10 games' time.
Do you know another thing with Tonali as well? Yeah. Because I know some people were a little bit critical of his small run in the team he had last season, but you can't underestimate mentally what would have been hanging over him. He would have known he was being investigated, and he would have known what he's done. So the mental side of the game is probably even more important than the physical side of the game. The fact now he knows that he's had the consequences of his actions. He's served his time, and now he's just got the freedom to just play football again. And I think Eddie Howe made a really good point in his press conference. I think it was last week. He said, first and foremost, I just want him to enjoy playing football again, because ultimately that's what it's all about. If you've got a happy player that's enjoying his football, you've got a better player. It's as simple as that. So I think it'll be good to see him back out there, hopefully enjoying himself. And I think either way, he's going to have he's going to have a big involvement in the game, whether it's off the bench or whether he starts the game. And I think for Sunday, we've got to try and keep that as the narrative rather than this negative narrative about the transfer window, because ultimately it's been and gone. It doesn't benefit anyone lingering on it. We've got to turn now, and we've got to move on from it.
I agree. There's some interesting transfers going through. I didn't realise it actually happened. Sam Johnson's left Crystal Palace, the goalkeeper. Weren't we interested in him a year or 2 years ago?
Yeah,
I can't remember if we were or weren't. I'm sure we were as a goalkeeper. And then there was another one as well. Remember Maxwell Cornet?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's went to, was it Southampton?
Southampton on loan.
So maybe that's why. So maybe Fraser is going.
Yeah.
Oh, there is. Oh wait, no.
Yeah,
that
Fraser
would be more competition, wouldn't it?
Yeah, more competition. Yeah, but Maxwell Cornet is injury prone, isn't he? It's an interesting one, but again, Fraser's a free transfer, isn't he? If we allowed him out of his contract, but I mean, he just wants to get bought out, isn't he? Right, little greedy little hobbit, isn't he? We just don't like you, Ryan. Just leave.
Nelson to Ipswich is pretty much done now, by the way. Look, that's been and went very quickly.
Very, very quickly, unfortunately. Yeah, Alex Hayden dropped out. We know that one. I'm just trying to see if there's any other silly rumours that we've missed. I don't think there is, to be fair. Gordon, obviously, to Liverpool was a rumour that was going on for a while. I think that, in all daftness. This window has actually been quite good for us because we haven't lost any of our big players. Bruno hasn't left. We were all worried about him going to City. Gordon, after seeing that Trent Alexander little video about he's coming home and all this sort of stuff, Gordon hasn't left yet. And I don't think that'll happen now. I mean, there's only 2 hours until the window shuts. There's no way Gordon's leaving now. You know, we've still got Isak. We've still got, I know Botman's injured, but we've still got him. He's a top player. So we haven't lost our quality. So in that aspect, to put a silver lining on the transfer window is we haven't lost anyone brilliant yet.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It just that was the main aim, wasn't it? To keep the core. Obviously, Nick Pope, as much as he's kicking at times, is letting himself down the game, which we all know. But I think Nick Pope looks fit and agile again, so that's a massive plus for our goalkeeper to be back, because the games we've been in, he's made some fantastic saves, by the way, and he's gone under the bit, or how good Nick Pope's actually playing. He's just getting pulled from his kicking a bit. So the spine, apart from Botman's still there, which is good. It's just frustrating that we couldn't build around it. Going forward to January, I think it's going to be even more difficult. I really do. Because obviously you think that price was steep. The price will go even higher in January. So
do you think January will be difficult depending on where we are in the league, though? So let's just say, for example, silver lining, let's look at everyone's looking at the doomsday factors about, we're going to lose all these players in January or in the summer. What if we actually outperform again, like we did 2 years ago? We're challenging for top 5. January becomes a different story, doesn't it? Because players are going to be looking at us and going, oh, maybe that project is still on. Maybe that is the reason why I should go to Newcastle, because they are fighting for honours and they are fighting for Champions League football.
But then you obviously, I'm going to reverse the coin and say what was it the other way. And then no
one knows, though. This is what I mean. It's like there's no point in looking that far ahead, is there, until we actually get closer to it, and then we can reevaluate and have a look at where the season's going and what our potential targets are.
My point was it's if you think the transfer targets are expensive now, they're going to be more expensive in January. That's so for PSR reasons. It's got to be. We've been down this road before, and for PSR values again, we've got to be dead careful. I know the money's there.
We've talked about Guehi, though, about not signing a new contract. He'll then have 1 year and 6 months left on his contract. His price isn't going to go up in January. So if he is our number one target and we want him, that's not going to. It should be cheaper than what it is 6 months later down the line, shouldn't it?
The only problem with that is that as the price goes down, more clubs will come in. So you've got Liverpool that are interested there. There's going to be other people who. I think it's going to be a hard one to do now, but what, maybe
like I said, though, he's had a fantastic look at. If he wasn't in that Euro squad and wasn't in the limelight, we all watched him because England were poor in the right. And he stood out. Now, if he wasn't in that squad, he just went through the summer. Can you tell me his fee would have been that price? I don't think so. So what I'm saying, I
don't think we even look at him, to be honest with you. I don't think he would have been on our list.
It's a long way from now to January. He might perform to the highest heights where his price tag could go up. Yeah. It could be. You just don't know. It's
one of them. It could go the other way as well.
Of course, it could.
Exactly.
But to be fair, I actually think Palace might have missed a trick here. That might have been his peak. He's just come off the back of a great Euros campaign. He's one of probably only 2 or 3 players for England that really come out of it with any real credit. And the thing is, when your levels are so high, it's hard to keep them up that consistently. Now, I think he's a great player, and I think there is a good chance he can do that, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. Someone also made a good point to me earlier today. They were talking about Brighton and the PSR stuff and all that, and the players they've sold. And if we wanted, we could have rebuilt the whole squad this summer if we really wanted to. We could have sold Gordon, Bruno, and Isaac and got 300 million, but it's not even the money. It's especially with Bruno and Isaac, they're almost unicorn players. They're not. You can't just pull one out. It doesn't matter what money you have. No. You can't just pull out a Bruno or an Isaac. These players are really rare to find. So in a way, that's the one thing I'm trying to cling on to, that we have kept our quality players, but obviously, especially a centre back, I can't hide my disappointment. I really did want to see a centre back come in, but it looks like we're gonna have to wait.
Most certainly are. Let's have a little look towards Spurs at the weekend while I'm still watching Sky Sports News. Don't know why I'm bother watching in it, but there we go. They're not even anywhere near us at the moment. Spurs, they're a funny team, aren't they, Ian? But they like getting battered at St James's Park. I'm excited for the game because I don't know what it is with Spurs, but when they come to St James's Park, they just seem to lose the belly for it. They really do. And as long as we start with that high intensity, and if we can get an early goal, you might see them fold like a pack of cards again. And don't forget, I know we haven't played well, but we are undefeated so far this season.
4 points.
We've never failed to score a goal at St James's Park, and God knows how many games now. So we're good for a goal, at least. I know, there's the jinx. Just jinxed us again. So that's Shaw getting... Oh, Shaw can't play this weekend, so he can't get injured. But we do always score. We have this habit of doing that at St James's Park. I just think the disappointment of the window, the team talk will be, we've kept the squad together, the unity, the boys are still there, the bad boys are there. Let's get into Spurs. A bit like the team talk you give about Man United, they want to see pace. Let's give them our fucking pace. Let's go at them. Let's get into them. And I think we could run out winners again quite comfortably.
Yeah.
You're not convinced, are you?
I think it'll be difficult, to be honest. I think
after that team talk I've just given.
To be honest, I think because of how tense it is around the club at the minute, I think the first goal is huge. If Tottenham score first, I can see it turning toxic, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
and we haven't really seen that since the takeover. But I think for the first time, it's the first time since the takeover, we've almost, up until last season, we've almost just had this upwards trajectory, just no dips at all. But the reality is, it never happens like that. So this is probably the first time since the takeover where fans are questioning the club, they're questioning the decisions that have been made. And I do think that if we do put in a poor performance on Sunday, or we do go a goal or two down, unfortunately, I wouldn't be surprised to see it turn a bit toxic, and that doesn't help anyone.
And our first home game of the season, you've got to remember, Darren Eales was in that stack singing. Right?
He won't be in there. He won't be in there on Sunday, I'll tell you that.
He won't be
if he's got any balls, he will be in there.
He'll not be in there. No chance. Not a cat in hell's chance. And simply because the window was still open. And it was the first day, the stack was open, everybody was getting themselves really right up for it. Sunday for me, I'm with Will. That early goal, if we don't get it, the longer that game goes on, I'm just glad the sun's going to be shining, because if it was cold, it'd be even worse inside that stadium, because it would be absolutely awful in that stadium. And I just like what Will said there. There's a lot of fingers and questions getting pointed, and questions thrown at certain individuals now. They're starting to Eales and Mitchell and obviously Howe's getting really questioned. And I mean, I'm off Eddie Howe, mate. I really am. I think he's the right man for the job, obviously. But when things don't happen, what people's expectations of certain, I mean, even our chairman now, there's been videos going around about what he said last year. What's your aim? And it's to be number one. Now people's just went, well, that's not happening anymore, because we haven't signed anybody. So that's it. It's going to right at the top now to nigh on the bottom, which that was never the case, because everybody was still in the honeymoon period. Now, when things haven't happened, because this is when it's a transfer window and you're supposed to have all this clout, what people think, and it doesn't happen, it gets poisonous. And that's on social media and around. So can you imagine on that ground with, if things are not going well, you've got 52,000 people all want to do that. I just think it could be a really, really tough. And Spurs will come and play that way, mind. And they'll not come up and just go, yeah, we'll cave in and just give these a happy day. They'll come up, and I think they'll try to disrupt. It wouldn't surprise me if they win the toss, they'll turn us around. I think they'll do everything in their power, because they know what's going on, to make it a horrible place for us. I really do. And it's not going to be as easy what people think. I mean, I've seen a few comments there, we're going to win 3-1, 4-1. I don't think so, mate. It's going to be so tough.
You know, lie down and relax. Hey, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and this football
Of course
game is
we
a
are.
tough one on Sunday.
Of course we are.
I hope we do from Spurs. I mean, Ian's made predictions and got them wrong. He's also made predictions that we all haven't, and he's got them right. That's what you've got to remember. It's all about opinions, and what happens on the day. Anything could happen, couldn't it?
I'm not going to say the result one way or the other, but all I'm saying, as I said before, is I think the first goal will be massive, just because of how it'll affect the atmosphere.
Yeah. I mean, once Sunday comes, I'll always bet us to win, and I'll put 3-1 on, and it doesn't matter who we play. I'll always put that result at home. But I just think it's going to be a really, really tough game, and like I've said, I think Spurs will set up to make it a really uncomfortable day. I really do.
Didn't I tell you? Someone will go back and find my tweets about Luke Edwards about how he was rubbish. And someone's done it. They also don't like you, Will, either, to be fair. Blocked now.
Fair enough.
But I've learned from my mistakes. You know, Luke is actually quite a nice guy. He was really nice over the phone. And we can't wait to have him on a Monday night, regardless of what we've said about him in the past. I'm sure he's had a lot worse. We live in the world of I want now. This is the thing that really drives me nuts, is that people don't realise that this is a project. It took Man City 7 years before they won a trophy. Is that right? If I remember rightly. Or 7 years to be competing regularly.
The weather went through 3 managers, didn't it? And 3-4 managers in 7 years.
Exactly. And they didn't exactly get Champions League football
then as well. When they did it without before there was even any rules in place.
Yeah,
exactly. There was no PSR. They could spend what they want, and they did. They brought Robinho in. They brought in Adebayor. God, who else did they bring in? Yaya Toure came in. Remember? God, I mean, they had so many big players.
We got Tevez.
Guerrero, obviously. Tevez, yeah, that was massive.
Yeah.
My mate's just messaged me saying, "Fuck PSR." That's where the anger should be directed.
That's where it should be directed.
Yeah.
Direct it at the people who put these rules in place.
I agree with Kev. We do have a decent squad this season, and we can switch it up a bit as long as everyone's fit. Willock's injury really worries me. That if you go down again.
Twitter, you go on Twitter, and fans are fully entitled to be frustrated, but everything's exaggerated on Twitter. If you're in and around the ground on Sunday and you speak to anyone, yes, people will be unhappy, but some of the stuff I've seen has been just utterly ridiculous the last week or two on Twitter. I've had to go off it at points just because some of the exaggeration from our fans, the meltdown that's happening, it's just these people, they don't understand the rules that are in place. They don't understand what we can and can't do. Like, I think some fans have just got to get realistic. They need to have a look at the rules. They need to point their anger in the right direction. It's just, yes, there's a lot of frustration. Yes, there's a lot of anger, but people are trying to do the best they can for the club. We wouldn't have appointed we've appointed top people that have been wanted by many other clubs. Paul Mitchell was wanted by loads of clubs. James Bunns, these people, it shows you that we are trying to move forward. It's just the rules that are in place. There's only so much we can do.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. There was some good comments in there. Go on.
And also the fact that everyone on Twitter, you have to be one way or the other, don't you? You have to be a so-called happy clapper, or you have to be or you can just be someone that's in the middle that says, like us, I think we're quite in the middle. We can say there's reasons why we haven't done this, and at the same time, we probably should have moved on from Guehi a bit earlier, and we probably should have got a centre back in. And I think you can have a balanced view. You can see both sides of the argument. Not everything. This is the problem. Everyone these days has to be black or white. You have to think everything's amazing, or you have to think it's terrible. I think actually, in reality, it's just somewhere in the middle. Yes, there's been mistakes made this summer, but there's also reasons behind why we haven't been able to do certain things.
I mean, and again, a lot of fans also need to learn how PSR works. Honestly, after doing that show with Stefan, I thought, Jesus, we finally cracked it. Everyone knows, or everyone who watches the show.
I think you just need to pin it in the chat of every stream.
Well, I had this guy, this level-headed Geordie, he calls himself. I mean, he's far from level-headed. It's unfucking believable. He came at me and said, "Well, these are the figures. We've got 140 million pound to spend." So we've got 140 million pound to spend, and PSR is still a problem because 140 million is only going to get you 2 players. It's not going to get you to overhaul a squad. We've got 10 players out of contract at the end of this season. Potentially, some will get contracts again, but very few of them should get them. So that means we've then got to maybe potentially get 7 players in.
Was the 140 million excluding the signing of Hall, Asula, and the other goalkeeper?
He just said 140 million in general. That's what it was. And you got to start taking that stuff away. And if you do that, we're left with 70 million roughly, aren't we? And that was the Guehi money. Yeah. So I said PSR is still a problem then, isn't it? And this is where I got him straight away. PSR is not a problem. We can spend what we want. We just have to balance the books in 3 years' time. No.
How?
No. That is not how PSR works.
In 3 years?
Yeah, in 3 years' time, we have to balance the books again. We can sell whoever we want and balance the books.
Yeah, and it's a rolling period, not a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like, mate, you've lost your argument straight away there. You said you knew what you knew, and you know nothing. And he still tried to keep coming back at us on me. I was just like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Some of these people that go on about balancing the books, they're fanatical. They think we're going to get 30 million for people like Almiron and 20 million for Wilson. Not happening.
Yeah. We can't even sell them now. So, and 6 months down the line, 12 months down the line, their value is going to decrease. We missed our chance to sell Almiron at the highest peak, didn't we, when he had that purple patch? If we sold him in that January window, we probably would have got 25 million for him. But now, the way that it went, we're lucky to get 15 or 20 for him. I mean, he's still a decent player. Put him back in the MLS and you'll probably be flying. But people need to learn that PSR is a massive issue and they need to learn exactly how it works. And then if you don't understand the numbers, follow Stefan. We've told everyone about him. He used to work for Man City. He used to work for a Premier League football club, and he also used to work in banks for financial advising. He looks at all the club's figures, everything that's released into company houses. Then he tries to work out, the anomalies of like sponsorship money and all this sort of stuff and potential player sales. And he gives you a figure. We were told when he was on the show, 100 million without any Premier League sales of players. That's what our budget will be this summer. And we were all like, oh, really? And then when he started talking about it and the figures wise, it all made sense. And that's why we've only got a small budget left for one big player. And we tried to spend it and we couldn't. So I wish people would just learn PSR better.
We had to balance the books this year by selling
Minter and Anderson.
Minter and Anderson. Now, the transfer fee was far greater than the wages that were on. Right, so that's where you gain there, because the value of your transfer, your wages, what you lose is fantastic. Right now, if you imagine going in say 2 years' time, if we went spent willy nilly, and you're trying to sell Matt Target, right, and you're only going to get £10 million from him, but he's on £100,000 a week wages. How are you going to balance the book by selling these type of players? You can't.
Well, no one's buying them. That's the problem.
But how can you balance the books? Because these are the type of players that value what we've got. So you can't.
Right. See, this again, this is what frustrates me. We don't want a backup centre-back. We want a centre-back that's going to walk into our starting 11. Because Shaw's only got 1 year left. You find me 2 players at £35 million each that are going to walk into our right wing spot and walk into our centre-back spot. It's not going to happen. We're not blaming PSR because we didn't get anyone through the door. We're blaming PSR because we couldn't go out and buy 2 first-team players. We need 140 million technically to do that. We didn't have that because we had to buy a backup striker. We've had to sign players on free transfers, which again, the wages come out in PSR as well. You've got to round it all up. We had one more spot that we could fill and we went for the centre-back option and we failed to get that player. That's not PSR's fault for failing to get that player, but it's PSR's fault for us not being able to move forward faster, which is what we want as fans and what the Premier League deserves for other clubs to be able to do the same as well. I feel like I'm banging my head against a brick wall sometimes. I'm not blaming. I am not blaming PSR for us not getting no players. I'm blaming PSR because we can't be that forward thinking and go out and say, right, we're going to get that right winger, we're going to get that centre back, we're going to get that striker from there. We just can't do that, and it's frustrating. But people need to learn the PSR roundabout before they make comments like that, because I had this argument with someone on Twitter. You find me 2 players at £35 million each who walk into our team, and all the players you recommended, I said no to straight away, because Sancho from Man United. I mean, come on. Kilman from Wolves. Overrated, overpaid, in my opinion. I think you guys are the same, aren't you? Kilman's not really that good.
I think he's all right,
Who else
but
did
I think there was a big fee.
Yeah, Savio was one of them.
To be fair, I would agree on
De
Savio,
Ligt.
but then again, it was from Man City's parent club, so they're always going to get that deal. That's not a deal we wouldn't have got that deal.
He was finding me players that were not on our radar and wouldn't be on our radar and wouldn't be accessible. He said, for example, Sancho from Man United. Even if we wanted Sancho, Man United aren't going to do business with us.
Yeah.
So it's a non-starter straight away. People find players and look at the way the fee and say, well, he's 35 million, we should have got him. But then they don't think about where the player's coming from, how much wages he's going to be on, and whether we could do a deal with that club. We cannot do deals with Man United. It's never going to happen, not after what's gone on. So why throw a player out that wouldn't, just because he's at the right price doesn't mean he's accessible for Newcastle United. That's the problem. And that's why Eddie Howe's always said, we have a small pool of players that we're looking at, because these are the ones that we think we can realistically get. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the only one I was really up for was Chiesa. But again, he's off to Liverpool. So,
again, though, he probably wants Champions League football, probably wants big wages. It's probably another deal that's difficult, even though the transfer fees low. Thing is, in a deal, there's so many factors in a deal. You've got, does the player want to come? What's the transfer fee? Are the selling club open to letting him go? It's not just one factor. Is it the right player? Are they the right profile of player? Do they have the right character? There's about 5 or 6 things that, and when Eddie Howe talks about this small pool of players, people go, oh, what about this? What about this? But the thing is, with us these days, and because of the PSR and things like that, we're looking for people who fit all of these categories. They have to tick every box. And the amount of players that tick every box is just, it's not endless. Like Eddie Howe says, there's probably 4 or 5 players in each position. And then you look at how many of them are available at the time. You look at, is the deal feasible? That you can see how it can disappear very quickly.
I don't know if Andy's taking the piss for this one or not.
After that, it's like, do you just bring someone in for the sake of it? But we're not in a position to do that.
I don't know if he's taking the piss for this. He's actually sent me the picture of it on WhatsApp as well. It's Slow Sports News, so it's from 4 years ago. Oh, brilliant. I actually thought Mutu wasn't that bad of a player, but he already got a game. I remember him well. God knows I hate this. Slow Sports News is so funny at times, though. At this moment, I would settle for 2 players for 35 quid each. But this is it. I mean, I'm going to throw another thing out while we're talking about, backroom staff and stuff going wrong and that. How much are we missing Mirdad and Amanda? I feel like the club's lost half its soul when them 2 left. I really do. And like I said, I'm happy they sold the shares because of the way that they've got to put money into the club is equal to what the other 2 shareholders are doing at their share price, and they couldn't afford to. They've sold for a massive profit, so they've done really well for themselves after getting them for free. But I would love to have seen them kept on in some sort of role personally. And I don't know. I feel like we've lost a little bit of personality as a football club now.
Yes, they were very they were focal figures of the club, and obviously the respect that they got when everybody looked up at them. But I believe it's more than just them leaving. There's something else for me. Again, we just need to give it time. I think we will get there. We'll get there, mate. But everybody's
The thing with the PSR, it's all about the revenue income streams, and I actually still think we'll get to that top level. I just think it's going to take longer than what we first intended, but I mean, we've still got a lot of opportunities to increase the revenues massively. I mean, you've got opportunities like we could still build a new stadium. You've got new sponsors. You've got an improvement of the academy that you can then sell players on for bigger profit. You've got an improvement of the general level of the squad, where you actually start getting squad players that you can shift on after a certain point. There's a lot of different factors that can contribute to increase in revenue. It's just unfortunately with a lot of things like the academy and a new stadium, that sort of things that will bring in big revenue. It's not something that you can just do in a couple of months. It's something that takes a few years to put in the processes in place. So it might take that bit of extra time, but I've still got every faith that we'll get to the top under these owners. I think it's just going to take probably a couple of years longer than what we first expected.
I mean, they said a 5-year project to be potentially challenging, not to win something, challenging constantly.
Yeah.
Now we're 3 years into the project, aren't we? I thought this was going to be the summer. I really did. But I think not being able to get rid of the likes of Fraser, Hayden, the goalkeepers, everything else that's gone wrong, PSR then being thrown at us and on top of us. Eddie Howe said it in a press conference. We're the richest club in the world, the richest owners in the world, not the richest club in the world. We're the richest owners in the world. We apparently have all this money to spend, but PSR will not let us. You know, he's even said it black and white himself, saying that we are struggling because we're not allowed to have the shackles taken off us because of the Cartel 6. And we always go back to that, don't we? But it's true. Palace have signed 2 good defenders. Do you know what it is? They probably have. It just makes me wonder what Palace were doing. It really does.
I thought we might have looked at Chalobah on loan. I was surprised we didn't have a look at that one.
Yeah, I mean, he was mentioned a few times as well, wasn't he? And I was always no. But then, I mean, are you guys happy that we haven't gone and panic buyed, though? It was something I highlighted yesterday when the deal was off. I said, I hope we don't panic buy someone in the last day of the window and regret it, because with PSR, we don't have money to waste. So we have to stick to our guns with our targets.
If you go and panic buy someone that's not to the quality, that's probably even more of a failure than not getting someone in the first place. Because then you not only have you missed out on who you want, you're then hindering yourself for future windows and leaving yourself with someone who might not be up to standard. So I think the fact that we haven't just went out and bought anyone shows, if anything, to me, it shows that they are still committed to the project and getting the right players in place. Because if they really weren't as bothered as people are making out, then they would have just went and got anyone and everyone to please everyone. But the fact that they haven't done that, I think, shows that we are still aiming to bring in people who they think is at the top level.
Yeah, Blade spot on there as well. In 2.5 years, we've gone from a 300 million valuation to a 1 billion valuation, and a club that was fighting relegation for the last 4 seasons in a row are now actually fighting at the top end of the table with a 4th place finish and a 7th place finish.
Yeah.
And this season, we won't be any lower than 10th. You know, so
I mean, somebody commented before, Baz, that if we don't finish in Europe next year, the likes of Isak and that will go. I don't think Isak will go, but going forward to rebuild a squad that will challenge for Europe, there could be a potential top player sold. All big clubs,
I agree with that.
All big clubs have done it, and they've used the money wisely. Jack Grealish was a great one. Coutinho money for Liverpool. Coutinho money for Liverpool. They've done all that. So if we don't finish in Europe, I still think if we finish in Europe, there's still a potential that a player could leave to take us to that next level because they want to push us forward. And that's what clubs do.
It's frustrating, isn't it? And this is an interesting one. I think Sean Longstaff will have something in his contract where there'll be another year to add on or something that will trigger in January, potentially will.
I mean, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if there's something like that. I think, to be honest, I know a lot of people don't like Longstaff, but as a squad player, I don't think it's the end of the world if he stays. I think he's someone who's not going to kick up a fuss, and he fully understands the tactics and stuff like that. I wouldn't personally, it wouldn't bother me too much if he stays, as long as he understands that he's not going to necessarily be in the team every single week.
Yeah. And again, if you're going to be pushing for European spots, you get those European spots. You need a player like Longstaff who'll be willing to come in on a Thursday night, or if it's the Conference League, and play a pivotal role. People underestimate how important these players are for a football club. Sometimes, yes, they're not the elite level, they're not rubbish, and I hate people. I mean, he's the new scapegoat, isn't he, Longstaff? But he scored 6 goals last season, and he gets himself into good positions. Yes, we've discussed loads of times. I wish the guy would tackle a bit harder sometimes, because you don't see him, other than that tackle on the Southampton player. That was one of the first times I've seen Sean Longstaff really put a challenge in. But he reads the game so well when pressing and everything else that he does. He has his limitations, but he would be a fantastic squad player. He is a fantastic squad player for us, in my eyes.
Yeah. And going forward as a squad, we've got to have players like that, because we've got to go into club competitions, like you've rightly said there, on a Thursday night or a Wednesday night away, where we don't play your Brunos and we don't play your Tonalis and we don't play Joe Lintons. This is the level we've got to get at, where these other squad players come in and still be good enough to take us through that next round of a cup or in a group stage or anything like that. So this is the aim. And for me, the pivotal thing for Sean Longstaff staying as well, signing a new contract, all depends on what our manager does as well. If things aren't going well and England come knocking, I know I'm being negative with you a little bit, but this is the reality of it. He might take an England role because Eddie Howe trusts Sean Longstaff to the heavens mind, and Sean Longstaff trusts the manager. So that's a different spanner in the works if a manager goes about his contract at the end of it. But for now, 1,000,000%, he's a squad player that should stay around this football club for a while. And I think he's as honest as the day is long. He works hard, covers a lot of miles, and that's the type of players you need in your squad.
Thing is, Ian, even if you look at, for example, like Man United when they're under Ferguson winning everything, they still have people like John O'Shea in their squad.
Yeah,
just driving the standards, you've got to have people that are going to hold the group accountable and are going to keep the standards up in training. It's not. Thing is about football, it's not just what you get on the pitch. People forget they're also at the training ground 4 or 5 days in the week as well. They spend more time at the training ground. So arguably, it's just as important having them people who do drive the standards and keep the group at that level.
And I think Johnny Evans is another great example of that, because he wouldn't have come back to that football club if he wasn't that person as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Being at the age he is. Sorry.
I think that's why Eddie Howe's so big on having them sort of characters. I know even people like Dan Burn, I know, are the same. They keep the standards up. They understand the club. I know as local players, you do generally get a bit more stick, but ultimately they can't be underestimated at the same time. It's the same reason, probably, I'd imagine, Gillespie's probably still at the club, I'd imagine, for that same reason.
And I think, Dan Burn, I think Dan Burn, because he's not in the spotlight of being out there and fullback and being isolated, and everybody's just being that focal figure of watching him, ready to make that next mistake, ready to be in a bad position because it's not his natural position. This year, he's about his business quietly in his own way, because, like I said, nobody's watching him, but his levels when he's comfortable, I think he's been one of our standouts, and I think he's been absolutely superb in there, and I think he's been brilliant. Yeah,
I think defensively he's done really well. Some of the blocks, and you can see him he's really putting himself on the line. I mean, at time, 1 or 2 of the passes have been a little bit of a lower quality at times, but you can't knock him defensively, and you can't knock his spirit and how he gets the rest of the team up. Them standards, you need players like that, especially in a back line. I mean, if we go with Tino and Hall as our fullbacks on Sunday, then you're lacking a lot of experience there. So you need people like Dan Burn just for the organisation more than anything.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, mate, if Trips plays right back and Tino comes in at left back.
It wouldn't surprise me either, Ian.
Yeah.
I expect Trippier to start, personally.
Yeah.
I think Tripp starts on Sunday, especially after his performance when he came on.
And then I think it's up to Howe whether he goes Hall or Tino on the left side. Or I suppose Kelly's an option, but he's probably more of a centre-back, would you say?
Yeah, I think he'll go Kraft. I think he'll go Trippier, Kraft, Burn and Tino. He'll go and Bruno, Joe Linton and Sean Longstaff. And then I think he'll play Almiron, Isak, and I think he'll stick with Gordon, even though I think Barnes should be in.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I think it'll be close to that, if not maybe one, or possibly two, but I think it'll be very close to that team.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. This one, people say it was mismanaged window. I just think, like Will's rightly pointed out, Palace have strung us along and strung us along and strung us along, and we've all had the information. It's close. It's close. The goalposts kept on moving. I just think we should have been tougher in our decision to walk away from the deal earlier. We should have given ourselves more time to then look at, try and get alternative. I mean, we don't know if they were actually getting alternatives over the line at the same time as they were trying to get Guehi, because nothing ever came out. But
I think they must have had really positive messages early this week, because there was rumours that they set a sort of soft deadline for last Sunday and said, like, if there's nothing close or close to an agreement, we're just going to walk away. So I honestly think that they were really close to a deal when around Monday, Tuesday time. And whether what's happened, if that centre-back injury has maybe complicated it, something has complicated it. But I even if you just look at the noises that were coming out, it does appear like they were close, and it hasn't quite happened. And unfortunately, that's left us in a bit of a difficult position.
Well said, Scott. There's a lot of love for Sean Longstaff today in the chat, which is really nice to see, because I'm just used to people absolutely slating them. So it's nice to see that for a change, but we'll get there. Too right. Any strong? They're only strong in your opinion, but singing a song. Jesus Christ, I've gone over I've been online too much. My electricity bill's going too high. Good job the missus pays the electricity bill. Sorry. First bid for Elanga. Elanga was on then off in about half an hour, wasn't it, Will?
Yeah, it was on and off. It's as I said, as soon as it came out, it's just too late. If for any chance of a deal, we would have been paying probably 50 or more, just because of how late it is. Forest wouldn't have been able to replace him. So with that in mind, this is the thing. It gets so difficult at the end of the window, because people don't have time to get replacements in.
Yeah. West Ham do look okay. The players have got to settle. I'm not too sure if they fully have yet. Brighton always look good. I don't think Brighton have ever looked like a bad football team for a while now, have they, really, when you think about it? They always play quality football. I had them to beat Man United at the weekend, because I still think Man United are shite. I really do. But I'm right. I mean, they've sold their best player in Scott McTominay. He's off to Napoli. I can't believe they've let him go. He was their super sub. He used to come on and score loads. I don't get it. Right. Don't forget to subscribe if you're enjoying the show. Hit the thumbs up button. Don't forget there's a link to become a member if you want to try and win a prize, which is a $40 gift card to Diacro Shop. We also will be throwing in other prizes through the season when we can afford to put the money in. But we do want to give money to charity. It's what we do. With over £6,000 we've given to charity over the 3 years this channel's been running. I'm very proud of that, because to be honest with you, that £6,000 could have been better in my bank account, but it's not. Link is in the description if you want to get yourself something nice from there. Football prizes, again, an amazing sponsor. That double signed frame shirt looks amazing in Livramento and Kelly. You can also win a Gordon one, a Tonali one. There's other prizes like a Newcastle tour you can win. You can win some money as well. So get your tickets before the deadline of the 3rd of September, which is Tuesday. Don't forget, if you're feeling a little bit down after the transfer window, please write one of these numbers down. It will come in handy, I promise. And don't forget the dildo's back. Yay! I like it when stuff like that happens. Elanga news? There is no news. There is literally no news. I'm not going to lie, guys. I mean, we've said this a few times before. PSR has ruined transfer deadline day. Literally, Sky have nothing to talk about. They don't even have the figure up on the screen anymore, saying we're going to break records. This much is being sold. This is what's being bought. They're literally, like us a little bit sometimes, struggling to find things to talk about. And they've got the whole Premier League to discuss.
I think it fell off as soon as they stopped letting the fans outside the ground.
Yeah.
When they cut to the reporters and they'd have all the fans there.
Oh, man, that used to be brilliant.
I remember
I
one.
used to love that.
I remember a clip of when
The rolling
Ozil
man,
signed
the
for
rolling man, the roll-up man at Stoke was fantastic for me. Have a look. Have a look on YouTube. He's called the roll-up man at Stoke transfer day. Honest, he's brilliant. Like he's
And you always
absolutely.
used to get Harry Redknapp rolling down his window.
Yes, that's what I was going to go to. The Harry Redknapp interviews outside the ground in his car, rolling the window down. The Honor Wingy turning up to, was it Queen's Park Rangers? Thinking he was going to get a move.
Yeah.
Which was the best one? Was it Huntelaar? No, it wasn't Huntelaar. There was a centre midfielder that he pulled out the bag. It was an absolute huge signing for Spurs. He says, I haven't got nothing to tell you. And he drove into the ground, and then he actually signed. Like he was a great player.
Yeah, I know who you mean. The German.
Yes.
Was he German? No, was he Dutch? He was Dutch.
Dutch.
Van der someone, wasn't it? Van der
Who?
someone. Van der, I can't remember his last name.
It was
Van someone, wasn't it? Van der Vaart.
Van der Vaart.
Yeah. It's him, wasn't it?
From Real Madrid.
I can't remember, but he was quality.
Class.
I remember
that was when
Arsenal
Spurs started to turn
Ozil
a
as
corner
well.
of being a good team, didn't they?
I mean,
I remember
Harry
Arsenal getting Ozil.
blinder. He played them a blinder, didn't he? But no, I've got nothing. And then all of a sudden, here comes Van der Vaart.
Will, you were going to say what, Ozil to Arsenal?
No, Ozil, I remember the Arsenal fans are crowded round as well, because I think the reporter sort of like broke it to the fans as I can confirm the deal's done, and they all started sort of like just jumping around him, crowding round.
And to be fair, Will, when I was so excited to see, because he was absolutely unbelievable minding that Real Madrid side. And
I know.
To having to come to the Premier League, I thought it was just a statement signing for the league.
You know what? That brings us on to another good point, because the PSR, we just, we're Newcastle related, we think about Newcastle, but if we think about the league in general, is the Premier League now missing out on players because of the rules in place? I mean, Real Madrid,
the Saudi, aren't they?
Real Madrid, and seem to be getting a lot of the superstars. And obviously you've got the Saudi league as well that can offer the big money. So in the long term, could it actually be to the detriment of the league itself? I think that's the only thing that I think might make these big six clubs actually have to change it if they start missing out on these superstars to teams like Real Madrid, maybe PSG. Then they might think twice about the rules they've got in place when they realise that they've stabbed themselves in the foot with their own rules.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I think the changes have to be made for us, not just for us, but for all the rest of the Premier League clubs to be able to compete with the likes of Saudi Arabia's wage structure.
Yeah,
because they're offering more money than what we can, and it's. I mean, Tony's off there. He's only 28.
That's the thing.
We all thought it was going to be players in the end of the career, didn't we?
Imagine seeing Tony at like a Chelsea or a Spurs or someone like that. I mean, he could have made a massive impact, and now we probably won't see him again. We might
I know, but when he first came back after his betting, though, and I mean there was ridiculous figures of his transfer was going to be 80 to 100 million pound, and I mean, and then if you look at what he's actually went for, I mean, it's just because of the wages what he's got. I mean, the transfer fee itself so low for a player of his quality. And again, the wage structure it's ridiculous. Like,
the other thing with PSR is that it's affecting it both ways as well. So because everyone's looking to get the profit now, you've got the selling clubs that want absolutely huge fees, but you've got the buying clubs that can't pay the fee because they can't sell any of their players for a big fee. So it's like this thing where you're almost stuck. Like this is why it took so long before anything even. I know we're getting a little bit of movement now that we've got to the end of the window, but even still, if you compare it to a few years ago, I mean, I know the fees have went up, so you might, if you just look at the money, you might not think of it. But if you look at the amount of deals being done, I'd be very surprised if it's not less.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, well, I mean, it is. Let's face it. At the end of the day, there are a few deals flying around, but it's nowhere near what I would expect. But it's players leaving the Premier League as well. Scott McTominay going for 25.3 million. Gilmore is apparently off to Italy as well, potentially from Brighton.
Yeah.
That was a strange one. I like him as well. Gilmore's not a bad player. You know, you've got players leaving the Premier League and not many coming in when you think about it. But again, it's taking risks, isn't it, on players who don't. It's frustrating, very frustrating. I mean, look at Mitro. Mitro going to the Saudi League after an unbelievable season for Fulham in the Premier League.
Yeah.
He got 20 odd goals, didn't he? And then
Yeah.
suddenly he's off to the Saudi League. And I would have took him back at Newcastle. I know a lot of people wouldn't have, but I would have. I think we need another financial show. I know. I definitely don't want to sit through numbers again. Some of it went over my head, but Stefan was brilliant on it. We are actually going to try and get him back on in January before the window opens to see if he can give us any insight on what's going on. There was a few questions around why we haven't got sponsors, new training facilities, which we were promised apparently as a club. There's going to be a new training ground facility that hasn't materialised. They've basically revamped the old one. So it's Blue Flames, isn't it? Where the training ground is. They've literally revamped it and spent a lot of money in there. Just not bad. That's what I do, yeah.
There's a bit of breaking news here, Baz.
Go on, go for it.
Chelsea on the verge of an agreement for Jadon Sancho.
No way.
Yeah.
See, I just wouldn't go near him.
Season-long loan deal and an obligation to buy.
Oh. So maybe they are running out of money because they can't afford to buy straight right now.
But
yeah, so maybe Sterling's going. Maybe he's going.
That throws Sterling,
He's
doesn't
got
it?
to go.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could throw about another 7 players from Chelsea out the window there as well, can't you?
We all thought Madueke was an option about a week ago, and then he went and got a hat-trick.
A hat-trick, yeah. And everyone on our side were like, "Nah, don't want him, it's crap."
Regarding the training ground, though, it's not just as simple of it's the size of the acres of land that's available that keeps us in close contention with the city centre, because that's what they've said all along. They want to keep it as close to the city centre as possible. Now, there's not much land around Newcastle which is actually available to the size of the structure, what they want to do. That's what they've said. So, present time, they've been, how much was it? 6.5 million, I think, 6.5 million into the new training, old training ground, I think it is what they've done.
Throw a lot of money into it.
A lot of money to get it up to not the standard they want to, but to a standard where the players.
Fraser confirmed. Sorry to butt in, but there's a lot of Fraser confirmed to Southampton.
Good thing.
Brilliant. Yeah. So that's it. We've terminated his contract then.
I'll read the statement from Newcastle. Have literally just put out an official statement, so I'll just get it out now. Say permanent deal. It just says permanent deal, Ian.
Right. He's
left on a permanent deal, so yeah.
No fee, not whether it's for Ryan Fraser departed the club and joined Southampton on a permanent deal. That's all it says, yeah.
Maybe some of the journalists will have a bit more on it in a minute, but yeah.
I hope so.
That's what it
more
says.
More outgoings, no incomings.
What I think happened with Fraser personally, I think if he was wanting that payoff, I think he's probably just waited as long as he possibly can. And if we haven't given him it, maybe he's just decided, you know what, I do want to actually move, and maybe he's given in. Yeah. That's what I'd assume has happened, but I don't know if that's confirmed or not.
He's been back and forth to Southampton for about 3 weeks now.
Yeah, he has, because everyone spotted him at tournaments and stuff like that in airplanes, haven't they? Airports. We went for a free, we paid him off, I guess. No, I don't think we have. But this is it, though. More outgoings, no incomings. It's just like no one's happy. I'm overjoyed that we've now got rid of Fraser, because you've got to think about the long-term goal.
The wages,
he could have been sitting on a year's wages, couldn't he? That's money saved. And it all goes towards PSR. Jesus. Be happy he's gone. Stop trying to put another spin onto it. John's asked, and I have given you the thumbs up on this one, John, because I think we have got enough to compete. But it depends on what you mean by compete. You haven't put, are we title contenders? Are we top 5 contenders? Because that'd probably be Champions League. Are we talking about Europe? Are we talking about winning a trophy? What do you mean by compete? Because yes, we have enough to compete, but depends on what you think competing means. I personally think we've got enough to break the top 6. Ian, what do you think?
You know what mine is, mate. And I think...
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think Europe is a little bit too far for us again. I really do.
Do you mean we would have had Europe this year if it wasn't for Man United winning the cup?
That was last season, mate. And this is a different ball game, in my opinion. I think quite a few teams around us of last year have strengthened quite good. Obviously Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United, Aston Villa, Brighton. These are the, you know, and obviously you've got your top two, your Arsenal's, Man City's. So I've named 6 or 7 teams there that are going to be right up there in my opinion, and then it's going to be another group of where we are, I think. And I think if we're going to go to, I think we're going to be about 7th or 8th, me. I really do.
I think for me, I think we can push for top 5, but because we're probably 2 players short of what we need, that one I put on my Twitter, but because we're probably 2 players short of what we need, I think we're going to have to get lucky again with injuries if we want to be up in that top 5. If not,
100%.
Like it says, we'll probably be around 7th again.
Do you know for me though?
7th Europe though.
Do you know for me though? This is again, if we lose a player like God forbid, if we lose Bruno, right?
You jinxed it.
Right, or we lose Tonali, or we lose a big players that, you know, I'll tell you what, I'll stick you next and say Joe Linton, right? Because the impact of that man, what we lost last year, showed me absolutely how much he missed. His work ethic, everything off the ball, his strength, just his presence in the system that we play. Because we haven't got the squad depth to bring in somebody capable enough to keep us going in that direction, I think we'll just kind of find us want to get over that line again to take us to that next level, which Baz, what your heart wants us to get to. Now, my brain's telling us the other way, that if like Will said, we've got to rely on injuries again. We've got to be quite lucky on injuries. Now, we went through that season. We'll finish Champions League very, very lucky because we were squad bare, but that core kept us together, and we had the direction of the club was going in the right direction. The fans were behind the club, behind the team. The whole city was behind the team. It's different now, and I just think it's on that little bit of a knife edge where it can go either way. Especially at present. Now, the next 3-4 games is critical to me. To see what we've got. We've got an international break coming up soon as well, which it'll allow Joe Willock hopefully to come back after his injury. But again, we're on about how good Joe Willock was and how much we missed Joe Willock last season. Again, he's an injury. Eddie Howe turns around and says about injuries as well that they're not too bad. And for God, he's been out for 3-4 months. So we don't know. So I'm with Will on this one. We're an injury away or 2 to be very, very lucky just to keep us going in that direction. But I think we will overall be round about that mark, I think, where we're going to finish.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I just think momentum, if we can get onto a run and get Isak scoring, get Gordon firing, I think we've got enough to beat some of the teams around us. Again, luck's got to be on your side, hasn't it?
How big's your run though, Baz? How big do you want that run to be?
All season.
So you're going to. So that's right. So my question to you is: you're going to put a demand again on a squad that's not at that level to compete at that level for a long, long time. What the top sides do because of squad rotation and the players that they bring in to keep them at that level, which we are not at the minute.
You want to see a back three, don't you?
Me? Yeah, I want to see. I want us to see as a club in a position where we can change formation and be at the top of our game rather than just doing it for an experiment. Because I want us to have players to be versatile, to be able to play in certain positions where we're not a one-trick pony at every game that we'll come across. Because you know how we're going to set up. The team kind of picks itself. And it doesn't matter who we play against. We're always going to start off with a 4. And as Sky Sports will put up, or we'll play, it'll be a 4-3-3. But again, what we do is we revert back to a 4-5-1. I believe we need to have something different to go up against the top sides or go away from home where it becomes less difficult against a so-called smaller side like a Bournemouth or a say Ipswich or someone like that, because it only takes so many TVs to watch on a Sunday when we're playing to go, that's how Newcastle's going to play. It doesn't matter what you do on your training ground, we'll seem to play in that way. For me, I want us to be that team that is so flexible in different ways that it doesn't matter what Newcastle side turns up at that ground, the manager doesn't know how we are going to play or what team we're going to put out. That's what I want to be in a position with.
Do you know what it is, though? And I've watched this in the last few games. I think we have changed the way we play. We tried to play more of a possession-based football when we used to be very good on the counter-attack and soaking up pressure. And I think counter-attacking football still actually suits the players we've got. You know, Gordon,
if that is the case,
Guehi.
If they're trying to change that possession style, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me when we're still lacking the quality at centre-back.
Yeah.
Because it starts from your centre backs. If you look at top sides, it's even though they start with a 4 or whatever, they always split to a wide 3. You look at Man City, what they do, they always split to a 3, and they're very comfortable in possession. Or you've got players that will go and step into midfield where we don't. We just seem to be there in areas where that's what we do. That's the formation Newcastle play. It's frustrating because I think we're easy to play against at times, and when we counter attack and look great, it seems to be at the very beginning of games. When we're up the blocks,
then we settle into that possession-based football, and then the teams sit back and allow us to push onto them, and then we struggle to break them down. Then they hit us on the break, and they look more dangerous than what we do. Forest looked much more dangerous than us after Willock went off because they were counter-attacking us.
So if we're struggling to break someone down like that, we haven't got the players to change anything into a different formation. It's always like for like. It's always Miggy off, Murphy on, or you know what it's going to do. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which system you set up at the present time. The players we've got at this football club, it's always like for like. So it doesn't change the mindset of your opposition. They just set up and go, right, that's what they're going to give. Nothing changes for us. Everything's just like, stick what we're doing. And if it's working, you're going to beat them. And then we're hanging on for dear life because we've got nothing to change. And it's frustrating.
Missing a number 10, aren't we? But Miggy's a number 10. I don't know. Sky Sports are showing Fraser with a Southampton top now, saying it's definitely done. Victor Osman from Napoli, despite difficulty balancing his demands with their wage structure, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. I would be really worried about Chelsea if they signed a striker. I mean, really worried about Chelsea. Like if they signed Tony or Osman, I'll be like, shit, these guys are going to be unreal.
I just
still
can't
missing that quality striker.
That much money, and they still don't have a out-and-out goal scorer.
Yeah, it's mental.
Reminds
me of Arsenal a couple of years ago, doesn't it?
They've addressed everything else, and ultimately, you don't win a football match without scoring goals. I just don't get it. It's crazy, I think. But yeah, I'm really surprised that they haven't. I know they've got in João Felix, so I think it's probably more of a playmaker, more of a number 10. And Jackson has his moments, but he's still not clinical enough for me. I'm just surprised. I'm really surprised I went and bought a real top quality striker.
Tony, for me, I don't understand why he hasn't gone there.
I think they'd be nailed on for top 4.
Yeah, I agree.
And as it is, because they're always susceptible at the back, and in the attack, on occasions they can be very wasteful of chances. That's what leaves them open to getting turned over. That's what happened to them on quite a few occasions last season. That's why they finished where they did. I know they got 6, but realistically, with how that squad is,
great end to the season.
Probably an underperformance for them.
Yeah, but it was a great end to the season for them as well, which is why I'm surprised Pochettino got sacked. I thought that was one of the weirdest decisions I've ever seen. Very, very strange. Villa away last season, we played a different system and we smashed them. Yeah, we did actually. Different structures would be great, but we need players, and we do need players built to fit in different scenarios. They can buy all they want, but my God, that club is a mess behind the scenes. Will implode off their own doing. But a lot of people say inside Chelsea saying it's not a mess. They know what they're doing. I just don't understand it. I don't see the vision of it, to be honest with you. But that's the end of the show. It's been 2 hours. The window shuts in an hour's time. Let's face it. There's nothing happening. It's been very, very frustrating. So I'm going to go off and ring one of these numbers and have a chat with someone to calm myself down. But in all seriousness, those numbers are very vital to everybody out there who have been through anything. But yeah, it is early days. Don't get me wrong. I'm still cool and calm about it. Let's just hope we put in a very good performance on Sunday. We can get 3 points. People will stop talking about the window and start talking about winning the league again, which would be nice because that's how up and down our fan base is at times. If we lose, we're getting relegated. That's how it works, isn't it? Thanks to Will, been amazing. Obviously, you know, you're welcome on any show. You're in the group if you ever make them. You're welcome on. Ian, obviously, he's stuck with me. He's got no other option. He has to be on. Will's lucky. He has the option to say yes or no. Ian just has to be here. But I've enjoyed these shows. I think they've been amazing. But guys, we do different shows as well. Please keep an eye on the channel and keep an eye out for the other shows like the look aheads. The review shows are brilliant when we dive into the tactics and dive into what went wrong in games. And I'll have little videos out. I am going to do one tomorrow about the window and about the balancing act that we've got at the moment, about what it was like previously to what it is now. Look out for that video because you might like it, you might not, but I don't really care. But it is time to chill. It's time to go to bed. And hopefully when my little one wakes up tomorrow, she won't be thrown up like the Exorcist like she was this morning. So fingers crossed. Have a good night, everyone. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. And